back to another episode of The Jump. This one will be a very rare occasion of just professional sports. The NFL draft was tonight, so I'll be talking about those picks a little bit. And then the playoffs are in full effect, so I'll talk about those a little. As I'm watching this right now, it seems like the Nuggets are moving on. Denver's up 2-0 right now. This is Game 3, first game in L.A., but the Nuggets are doing the thing they always do. So, it feels like that one's over. If anything changes by the time this episode is towards the end, then I will let you know. But as of right now, that's what it feels like. But first I want to talk about the draft a little bit. Obviously, no shocker, Caleb Williams goes number 1. He's been number 1 for 3 years now. It didn't matter who had the pick. He was going number 1. For the most part, the top 4 were pretty chalk. It was kind of what people thought was going to happen. It was Caleb Williams 1 to Chicago, Jayden Daniels 2 to Washington, Drake May 3 to New England, and Marvin Harrison Jr. 4 to Arizona. That was kind of what people had thought would happen. The only thing that some people had said was maybe Jayden and Drake swap, because for the longest time Drake was rated the number 2 quarterback in this class, but it ended up changing later on in the year. But once it got to 5 is where things started changing, because 5 also brought a lot of memes, so that was good for just humor on Twitter. But Joe Alt goes 5 to Los Angeles. The issue with that is Malik Neighbors was still on the board, Rome Odunze was still on the board, and every other receiver in the draft is still on the board. But Jim Harbaugh is now the coach. So there was no world, to me, there was no world where they weren't taking an offensive lineman, because he always believes, build the trenches first, the rest will work itself out. I mean, can't argue with it. So he takes the best offensive lineman available in Joe Alt. So I think it was a good pick. But the memes on Twitter are coming from, who in the world is Justin Herbert going to throw to? Which, I mean, maybe he won't be throwing as much as he used to, but Quentin Johnston is it's Quentin Johnston or Josh Palmer is the best receiver they have. So all the memes have just been saying, he's going to be throwing to speed as a receiver, or he's going to be throwing to some dude that just played high school football. He has nobody to throw to. So that's definitely interesting, but he'll have protection. So, Joe Alt was the best offensive lineman in the draft, so you can't argue with it. It's Jim Harbaugh's system, so I think that's how we'll go with that one. And I do want to mention, so this draft, obviously, everybody knew going into it this was an offensive-heavy draft, at least at the top. In the first round, it was going to be offensive-heavy. 23 offensive players were selected. That breaks the previous mark of 19 that was set in 1968, 2004, and 2009. So it's a historic draft. And Detroit showed out. Shout out to the city of Detroit. Man, every time the draft comes around, I feel bad for Roger Goodell because he just gets booed so loud. But yeah, continuing on, Malik Neighbors, like I said, there was arguments that he may have been the best receiver in this draft, just for the difference between him and Marvin Harrison. After the catch, what they can do. So yeah, that's and he falls to 6. Marvin goes 4, and I do believe Marvin Harrison Jr. should have been the number 1 wide receiver taken, but Malik Neighbors is right there. Malik Neighbors, some years you can make an argument that he should go number 1 overall, not even just number 1 receiver. Malik Neighbors is that good. So I think that's good. And the Titans, I think they're 2, which I don't have anybody telling me this. This is just my assumption, just by looking at people's reactions on Twitter and stuff. Joe Alt was the Titans' number 1 guy, and Malik Neighbors was their number 2 guy, and they go the 2 picks in front of them. So they, I guess you could say, settle, but it's a phenomenal pick. J.C. Latham, offensive tackle out of Alabama. He'll be protecting for Will Levis, so I think that'll work out great for them. They just picked up Calvin Ridley in the offseason. They have D-Hop. So I think they'll be fine there. Part of me wanted them to take Brock Bowers, just get another playmaker, but the protection is always needed. Then you get to 8, and that is where the shocker, the draft goes wild. Michael Penix Jr. goes 8 to the Falcons. It felt like there was no world where this wasn't going to be a defensive player. The Falcons just get Raheem Morris, new coach, defensive coach. They have tons of weapons offensively. They just signed Kirk Cousins for. Let me pull up that contract. They had just signed Kirk Cousins for. Let's see. To a 4-year, $180 million deal. And then they draft Michael Penix Jr. And I love Michael Penix Jr., but their defense needs help more than anything. They have playmakers offensively, and they have their quarterback for the time. I don't understand it. It makes no sense at all. And the video of I can't remember their GM's name, but the video of him trying to explain or just talk to Arthur Blank is the funniest thing ever, because Arthur Blank just looks so disappointed. He looks just so crushed, and it's hilarious. But I just couldn't believe it. I figured it would be Byron Murphy right here. I figured Latu, a DB, anything. I thought there would be anything. Even a receiver I think would have been fine. If they would have taken Rome Odunze, I wouldn't have hated it. A lineman, anything. But they took Michael Penix. So they're the one thing that you can kind of assume that they're going with is that their quarterback's coming off an Achilles injury. Kirk Cousins, coming off an injury, needs a solid backup. And then they went and got the most injury-prone draft pick of all time. Michael Penix Jr. has been hurt 8 times in his college career. Like I said, I love the guy, but it just doesn't make sense to me. Hopefully it works out. Maybe they have some things planned that we don't know about, and maybe it'll end up working out. Then the Bears, they had the 9th pick, so their 2nd pick of the draft, and they get Rome Odunze. So I didn't know if they would take defense or if they would take an offensive guy or an offensive lineman. They take Rome Odunze, and I absolutely love it. They're going to have DeAndre Swift, Keenan Allen, Rome Odunze, now obviously Caleb Williams now. They're going to have... they drafted Darnell Mooney last year, so the offensive line will be fine. They got DJ Moore last year. This offense is gonna be crazy, and I think if you're a Bears fan, there's no way you can't be excited right now. So it's gonna be fun to watch the Bears. I'm excited for it. Then you get to 10, and JJ McCarthy falls in there. So I think. Yeah, Minnesota had the 11th pick. They traded up with the Jets to get that 10th pick and take J.J. McCarthy, their quarterback for the future. So Sam Darnold is obviously on their roster right now, but I think J.J. is kind of the guy that they plan on using. The other guy that was in contention for the best offensive lineman in the draft was Olu Fashanu, and he goes 11 to the Jets, which I like. I thought Brock Bowers was going to go, and it was going to be another weapon for Aaron Rodgers, but they ended up going for the protection for the 40-year-old. Then Bo Nix, shockingly, goes 12th to the Denver Broncos. So all the rumors about Sean Payton liking him because there's a little Drew Brees comparison and stuff, it makes sense. It all adds up there. So I think I have this stat on my phone. I'll get to that here in a second. But so that's 6 QBs that were drafted in the first 12 picks, and that matched the total that have went in the first round since the '83 QB class, and it was in 12 picks. So the most was 6, which it ended up being 6, but it was 6 in 12 picks. It's wild. I could not believe that was how it went. So then you move on. You got Fuaga, offensive tackle from Oregon State, going 14th. But at 13, I thought the Raiders were going to take Xavier Worthy. I thought they'd take a receiver to help out Devontae Adams and help out Gardner Minshew or Aiden O'Connell, whoever ends up starting for him. and they go Brock Bowers. So after taking Michael Mayer last year in the early second round, they land on Brock Bowers here. I think there is no world where Brock Bowers doesn't succeed other than like injuries. So I think it's a good pick in that sense. But I just think there was something better that they could have done there. But with that being said, the top 14 picks in the draft were all offensive players. So the record for the most offensive players to open a draft was 7 in 2021 prior to this. And it got doubled tonight with 14. So Latu, first defensive player taken by the Colts at 15. Byron Murphy following him, D-tackle from Texas at 16. Then it goes Dallas Turner to the Vikings. They moved up to get him, so I think that's a great move. Then you get a couple more offensive guys sprinkled in. The one thing I wanted to note, let me get the correct amount of days. It had been 2,919 days since the Rams last used a first-round pick, and that was Jared Goff. And they finally did it again. They took Jared Verse out of Florida State, a guy that was projected top 10 last year, and returned to Florida State, and obviously had a great year, and goes 19. I think it's a great pick. They took, what was the dude's name from Tennessee? I'm blanking. Last year, a defensive lineman. And then they took Jared Verse this year. So obviously with the Aaron Donald departure, I think that's a great pickup there. The Eagles, the defense gets stronger for them, getting Quinyon Mitchell out of Toledo. Many had him as the best DB in the draft, so I think it's a great pick there. The Jaguars fill their need for a receiver. They have Gabe Davis now, but they lost Calvin Ridley. They take Brian Thomas, so I think that'll be an awesome situation there for him. I like that little connection that I think him and Trevor are going to have. The Lions ended up trading with Dallas for the 24th pick, and they take Terrion Arnold, who was the other guy that was in contention for being the best DB in the draft. That's a phenomenal pick. Best valued pick in the draft, in my opinion, Terrion Arnold. I think that's just a great one. Then you get to this was the most notable to me. The 28th pick, Buffalo had it. So Buffalo, instead of making a pick right there, which they could have easily done, picked a wide receiver, they need it bad, they trade with their rival. They trade that pick with the Kansas City Chiefs and let them get the newest version of Tyreek Hill. The man that ran the fastest 40 in NFL history, Xavier Worthy from Texas. That's who they allow their rival to get. It's crazy to me that once the Chiefs even contacted them about trading that, it should have been an immediate no. No matter what they're offering, because you know what they're going to do with that. So I think they had the 32nd pick before that, but it's crazy. And then you get Nate Wiggins, great DB out of Clemson, headed to Baltimore, so that's the rich get richer. The San Francisco 49ers. This one's interesting because this means maybe some stuff can be going on here in the next few weeks. Ricky Pearsall gets drafted by the San Francisco 49ers, which means maybe Deebo Samuel and maybe Brandon Ayuk might be gone. Obviously, there's buzz with a few different teams on both of those guys, but I think it's a great pickup, though. I think Ricky Pearsall is in my opinion, the best route runner in this draft. I don't know anything. I'm just a dude sitting here talking ball. But just in my opinion, I think he is the best route runner. Obviously, Marvin Harrison is light years better. Malik Rome, those guys are better. But I think when it comes to pure route running, Ricky Pearsall is that dude. And he's got a 40-something inch vertical. So he's a freakish athlete, and I think it's a good pick. And then Xavier Legette ends up going 32nd to the Carolina Panthers. So Bryce Young gets a weapon there. I think that's a good pick as well. So obviously him and Brian Thomas are similar in how last year was obviously a phenomenal year, but they didn't have a great didn't have a great resume before that, but yeah, I think that those will both be good situations for Brian Thomas and Xavier Legette. So I saw there was a bet for, what was it, 6? It was over under 6.5 receivers taken in the first round, and we ended up with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Wow! So it ended up getting there. But man, yeah, it was awesome. Like the entrance with Eminem, Barry Sanders, all these like legends, Megatron, Jared Goff, Aiden Hutchinson, Amon-Ra St. Brown. I think that was all of them that they brought out. But that entrance was awesome. The city of Detroit showed out for sure. So I think it was an awesome draft, and I'm excited for tomorrow. Obviously, when I'm posting this will just be just the first round recap, kind of. But I think it's awesome. And I mean, I know like when me and Cade used to do this, we would say like who we think won. I think it's hard to argue that Chicago didn't win because they got a generational quarterback in Caleb Williams, and they paired him up with like arguably the best receiver in this draft. And in other years, he would be the best receiver in Rome Odunze. So I think that's awesome. I mean, if J.J. McCarthy pans out, I don't have a doubt in my mind that Dallas Turner won't be a great NFL player. They could end up having that as winning the draft. So, yeah, I think it was an awesome draft. Troy Fautanu, I can't remember how to pronounce his last name, offensive tackle from Washington. I saw that he was a Steelers fan growing up, and his favorite player was Troy Polamalu, and now he gets to play for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So I think that's cool. All those little storylines are awesome. So that's super cool. I had some stats that I wrote down in my phone. So, yeah, like I said, this was, I mean, the deepest, it was interesting because the deepest classes in this were, there's a big 4. Quarterbacks was deep, wide receivers, obviously, offensive tackles, and corners. And that's like literally the entire draft right here. Like there's a D tackle, an edge rusher, another edge rusher, but it's majority. One center. So it was an interesting one. But yeah, this was an awesome draft. So let me know in the comments what you all think. Who you think won the draft? Who you think is a sleeper that'll get picked up tomorrow? And I mentioned the Buffalo Bills and they need a receiver and stuff. They have the 33rd pick, so they'll have the first pick tomorrow. And it wouldn't shock me if they go like A.D. Mitchell, Malachi Corley. Trying to think. Keon Coleman is still left. But like some great receivers still left. Is the point I'm trying to make. So, and obviously still a running back hasn't been taken. And this is a very weak class for running backs. Jonathan Brooks will probably get drafted. Blake Corum will get drafted. And then it'll all be just late guys. Like both of those guys might go second or third round, but everybody else is gonna be late. Like Kentucky's own Ray Davis. But yeah, so comment. Let me know what you all think of it, and we'll see how the rest of it goes tomorrow, I guess. So now to the NBA playoffs. In the Eastern Conference, we have this is boring to most people. I've enjoyed the series so far, but I ended up turning to get tonight's game off. Magic versus Cavaliers. Cleveland leads at 2-1. They won their 2 at home. It went to Orlando, and Orlando beat the brakes off of them. I ended up turning it off like mid-third. Paolo was playing great. I think they ended up winning by like almost 40. So that series is 2-1. Cleveland with another game to play in Orlando. So that series I think is just getting a bad rep on social media, but we'll see how it goes from there. 76ers versus Knicks. Obviously Joel Embiid's playing on like one leg right now. The Knicks won 2 straight at home. Crazy game 2, crazy shot from DiVincenzo. But the 76ers got it done tonight, and Joel Embiid scored 50. Like I said, on one leg. He's a trooper. He is a trooper. So that series is getting interesting all of a sudden. Like they were the favorite tonight, obviously, but I mean, it looked like the Knicks were doing everything in their power to make that a game. So that's a series that'll be fun to see finish up. Heat versus Celtics. It's tied 1-1. The Heat took Game 2, and this is the Jimmy Butler-less Heat. They took Game 2 in Boston. This could get scary. It's either Eric Spoelstra's the greatest playoffs coach of all time, or the Celtics are just frauds. And I don't feel like it's the Celtics are frauds. I don't know what it is. I think it's just Eric Spoelstra. I don't know. I mean, obviously the Heat hit like 24 threes or something crazy. But yeah, so 1-1 there. Pacers versus Bucks. Bucks dominated Game 1. No Giannis right now. Pacers won Game 2 though. So that one is also interesting because if the Pacers get another one at home right here, I mean they have a chance to go up 3-1 before heading back to Milwaukee. So that one's crazy. But in my opinion, this Western Conference is a lot more exciting. But so first, the Lakers Nuggets. I just looked and it is now 101-89 with 3 minutes left. So Denver's up 2-0. Barring some insane ending right here, the Nuggets go up 3-0, and I mean I don't see anybody in the West beating the Nuggets. Literally, I think the best matchup for the Nuggets in the West is the Timberwolves, and I mean the Timberwolves are up 2-0, so don't get me wrong, they can move on and try to like push them a little bit, but like I don't see a world where the Nuggets don't go to the finals. Like the Nuggets are unreal, and I mean the Game 2. Jamal Murray hit that buzzer beater. LeBron and AD have done everything they can, everything in their power. In these other games, like let me check what they have tonight, because they've lost their mind in these games and lost them all. So right now, LeBron's got 22, 5, and 8, and then AD's got 31, 15, and 3. It's just like Spencer Dinwiddie and Gabe Vincent are scoring. They have 12 tonight, and it's the first points off the bench in the series, not by a man named Taurean Prince. It's crazy. Like I don't understand what it is because like AD and LeBron are doing everything in their power. They're playing the exact perfect game, and they can't win because like they need somebody else to score like 40. Like that's what it takes to beat the Nuggets, and Jokic just got an and-one. He bow AD in the face. Jokic is crazy, man. But I mentioned it. Suns versus Timberwolves. Minnesota leads 2-0. Anthony Edwards is that dude. So, him chirping at KD, that was phenomenal. And he's playing like he's the best player in the series. Even though the Suns have Bradley Beal, Devin Booker, and Kevin Durant, Anthony Edwards is the best player in the series. And he's been playing like it. So that's if he's going to be playing like that, and then they have the defensive presence down low, I don't see a world where they don't end up sweeping this or gentlemen sweeping it. But the Suns are in trouble. The Suns are definitely in trouble. Mavericks Clippers, that one's 1-1. Mavericks won Game 2 off a great Luka performance, great second half. But the Clippers looked like very, very good in Game 1. And then that was without Kawhi. They brought back Kawhi and they lost. So I don't really know what's going on there. But that series is interesting to me as well. The Thunder are up 2-0 on the Pelicans before they head to New Orleans. But the Thunder look like they're just going to be moving on. Like they're young, but I don't think it's really going to matter. So that series is going to be over pretty quick, in my opinion. I just don't see a world where the Pelicans end up making that much of a series. But and one thing I want to mention, Jalen Brunson tonight in this loss to the 76ers, he played phenomenal. I think he ended up with like 36, 38, something like that. He played a horrible game too, and they still won. He played phenomenal tonight, and they still lost. So it's crazy. I mean, it's similar to what AD and LeBron have been doing. But the Nuggets are similar to UConn in just like how the games go in like black and white, because the Lakers every single game in this series, and usually this is how it is with UConn. It's a little different, but like the Lakers, they've led like the majority of the first half in every game in this series. And then like against UConn, teams will be battling till halftime, and then a little after halftime for the Nuggets and UConn, there's just a run that happens, and you can't ever do anything about it. Like the Nuggets are up 13 now, and you just can't do anything. It's wild. It's just pure dominance. And at this point, I don't see. I know I said finals, but I don't see a world where they don't just repeat, because they're just insane. Like Jokic is the best basketball player in the world, and he has been for a while. I would love to see Shea win the MVP, but like Jokic is unreal. He's obviously he's people joke on how slow he is, how he looks. Like it doesn't matter. He's a ridiculous basketball player. And then Jamal Murray, he has the biggest differential in average points per game in the regular season to the playoffs. So that's also a great help. It's like 8 points difference. So he just steps it up when he gets to the playoffs. And Jokic almost has a triple-double right now. So this is crazy. So I think the Lakers literally just... I know it sounds stupid, but they should have just lost that first play-in game and then tried to just avoid them. Because at the time it sounded stupid. But there's just no world where they beat the Nuggets. So it would have been better just trying their luck at... maybe another team could knock them off or something. Like, it's wild. Pure dominance out there in Denver. But I think that's just about everything. I just can't believe the Suns, the trouble that they're in, because they haven't even like really been in these games. Like, the score might indicate a little bit, but the Timberwolves have just dominated that. But I'll do another episode after this first round and stuff. I'll do one next week, and it'll be more in depth, because this is kind of just an overview, and I don't want to talk about these games that have happened days ago when you all are viewing this. I'm talking about the games tonight, which was just 3 of them. So I think that'll just about do it for this episode, though. So thank you all for tuning in. Throw some comments on who you think will make the finals, and then. Leave some comments on the NFL draft and your thoughts and how shocked you were about the Michael Penix move, and just show some love. It's all greatly appreciated. Throw a like, subscribe if you haven't, follow the socials. I'll leave those at the end of the video. Have a great rest of the week. Have a great weekend, and peace.